welcome to my video, Top 10 Mysterious Disappearances. Number 10, Sandy Island. One of my subscribers, Dale T, recommended this one and it gave me the idea for the entire video. So thank you, Dale T. This is an island that was mapped in 1774 by Captain James Cook, and not much after it was listed on many nautical maps. In 1876, a whaling ship by the name of Velocity also came across the island and noted a series of heavy breakers with sandy inlets. During this time period, it was common practice to show any hazard that may endanger a ship. In November 2012, a surveyor ship named RV Southern Surveyor reported undiscovering the island. According to their studies, the island was not at the location that had been reported. The theory that the island was actually a pumic sea raft is the current thought. Throughout history, and some of it I covered in previous videos, there have been reports of islands that appear and disappear at whim, as is found with New Brazil. Number 9. Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste was one of the most famous ghost ships in history. In 1861, the Amazon, a mercantile ship, was launched under the British flag. In 1868, it was transferred to American hands and was renamed the Mary Celeste. On November 7, 1872, the ship and crew left port from New York headed for Genoa, Italy. On December 4th, a captain by the name of David Morehouse came across the ship and noticed something peculiar. The ship was sailing erratically and it was set at partial sails. He boarded the ship along with his other crew member to find not a soul on it. The lifeboat and much of the navigational equipment were gone. None of the cargo, food, or personal belongings were missing. The last entry in the log was 10 days prior and it didn't report anything to help solve the mystery. In 1874, the ship was sold and later intentionally wrecked in an attempt at insurance fraud. To this day, there are many theories as to what happened to the crew, but nothing has been proven concrete. Number 8. Amelia Earhart. This is probably the most well-known story on my list, but it definitely deserves its spot. The only reason I put it so low is because of how well known it is. Amelia Mary Earhart was fascinated with flight at a very young age. At the age of 23, she finally saved up enough money for her first flying lesson. Only 1 year later, she was the 16th woman to ever be issued a pilot's license. Amelia became famous after setting quite a few records, including earning a Distinguished Flying Cross for being the first female to fly solo over the Atlantic Ocean. In June 29, 1937, she boarded her Lockheed Model 10 Electra aircraft in an attempt to circumnavigate the world, along with Fred Noonan. On July 2nd, they took off from Leh, attempting to make it to Howard's Island. At one point, the radio signal became shoddy and they disappeared around the Nukumanu Islands. Some think that they crashed in the ocean and died, while others think they survived the crash only to die later on an island around the area. Just so it said, remains were found on a nearby island, but no DNA was recovered to confirm identity. Number 7. World War I Missing Battalion. In 1915, a Norfolk regiment of soldiers initiated an attack against the Turkish forces. At one point, they pushed the Turkish troops back, and they made a charge into a burning forest. As soon as the men entered the forest, they were never seen again and had vanished. It was assumed that they had been killed or captured, but after the war, the Turkish military had no record of the men, and even after a search of the area, nothing substantial turned up. Oddly enough, at the 50th anniversary of the war, a man by the name of Frederick Reichard went on record with a complexing first-hand account of what happened. He stated that he saw a strange gray, loaf-shaped cloud hovering over the battlefield that didn't move even when the wind blew. The cloud had another cloud about 800 feet in length and 200 feet high below it. Frederick stated he saw the battalion enter the cloud in their charge, but never emerged. Once the last man entered the cloud, it rose in the air and joined the first cloud and took off north. Later, this rendition of what had happened was corroborated by another veteran of the same war. Number 6. MV Joyita. Much like the previous Mary Celeste, this ship shares the same fate. On October 3, 1955, the MV Joyita left Samoa's Apia harbor bound for Tokelau Island with 25 passengers aboard it. The trip was to last 2 days, and on October 6th, the ship was reported overdue, and no one had received a distress signal. A search for this ship started immediately, but it wasn't found until 2 weeks later. The Joyita was partially submerged, the crew was gone, along with the 4 tons of cargo. The ship was designed to not be able to be sunk, even if it took on so much water, so the mystery puzzled everybody as to why the crew would even leave the ship. On March 14, 1975, the Western Samoa Post Office released stamps commemorating the mystery of the MV Joyita. Number 5. Stonehenge Hippies. Stonehenge is a fascinating location for many people, and for years it had been the location of a party hosted by hippies before it became protected from the public. On August 1971, one such party took place, but with a different result. They set up camp and lit campfires, intending to stay the night at the center of Stonehenge. Around 2 a.m., a severe thunderstorm quickly blew in, with lightning hitting trees and the stones themselves. A farmer and police officer witnessed the event, and both stated that the stones actually began to glow a brilliant blue. They claimed it was so bright that they had to avert their eyes. Suddenly they heard blood-curdling screams and rushed to the area expecting to see death, but were shocked with what they were met with. All the hippies had disappeared, including the tents, and the only thing that remained were a few smoldering tent posts and a smothered campfire. Number 4. Stratojet B47 bomber. There isn't much to this next one, but the report is very interesting. On March 10, 1956, a Stratojet B47 bomber took off from MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, set on a non-stop flight for Ben Gurion Air Force Base in Morocco. This bomber was carrying a cargo of 2 cases containing nuclear weapons material. During the flight, its first refueling attempt was successful, but later, when it was due for its second refuel, it had disappeared. Searches for debris of a wreck turned up empty-handed, and to this day it is still a mystery. Oddly enough, with doing research on this topic, I found many cases of lost hydrogen bombs in the history of the military that have not been recovered, but have been covered up. Number 3. Lieutenant Felix Moncla. This is sometimes called the Kinross incident due to the base Felix took off from. On November 23, 1953, a pilot by the name of Felix Moncla set off in his airplane to investigate a strange blip on the military radar over Lake Superior. While Felix flew to intercept the UFO, the ground crew monitored the radar. At 8,000 feet, they saw as Felix and the UFO blip merged into one. They assumed the 2 blips would separate, but it never did, and the original blip continued on its course. After a search, no wreckage was found, and Felix had just mysteriously disappeared. Originally, the United States Air Force stated that he had hit another plane, but no one has any records of any such plane being at the air, nor how it could have taken a hit and still kept flying unhindered. To this day, what happened is still a mystery, and in an official report, the craft Felix was chasing is listed as, quotations, unknown. Number 2. Dyatlov Pass Incident. On the night of February 2, 1959, 9 hikers were found dead of mysterious causes on the Ural Mountains. This incident is named after the group of hikers' leader named Igor Dyatlov. The group was to report back to base via telegram by no later than February 12th. No message came, and the idea of something being wrong was ignored. But finally on the 20th, they were forced by the relatives of the group to deal with it as a search and rescue. When the search party finally found the group, it was something from a horror story. The tent was found collapsed and torn open from the inside, and clothed and unclothed footprints were seen leaving the area. Later, all members were found, all dead, in separate locations and various states of dress. When the bodies were examined, many were found with injuries that were caused with so much force it was equated to being hit with a car. One body was found with her tongue, eyes, and part of her lip missing. There was no signs of a struggle, but interestingly, they did find radioactivity at the site. The Russian government officially stated the group died from an, quotations, unknown compelling force. Some have reported seeing orange orbs hovering over the mountains during when the group was said to have died. I will leave this topic with the image of the last photo found in the group's camera. Tell me if it looks like something else well known. Number 1. It's not an aircraft. This is one of the hallmarks of the UFO field, and to date it can't be explained. On October 21st, 1978, Frederick Valentich was flying his Cessna 182L over Bass Strait in Australia. Around 7 p.m., Frederick radioed the control tower stating that the UFO was following him. He stated the craft was silver metallic with multiple lights on it and said it was moving very fast and almost toying with him. At one point, he radioed that he was having engine trouble, and the tower asked for him to identify the second craft, to which he stated, "It's not an aircraft." The transmission was abruptly cut off and an unidentified noise, described as being metallic scraping noises, was heard, and all contact with Frederick was lost. A search of the area turned up no debris. It should be stated that a UFO was reported in the same area that night. Frederick had a fascination with UFOs and did have the fear of being abducted by one. While most of the information seems to be just trying to run a smear campaign on Frederick, I have to wonder if he wasn't abducted before and that is what caused his fear. With that, I will end this, so I will see you in the next one. Be safe. Later.